All right. Well, welcome to Coaching Breakthroughs Using Catalyst. So, as everything disc practitioners, you might find yourself serving in a coaching role. And this is possibly as an extension of a workshop for an individual's personal development or for a group to improve how they work together. So, today we are going to show you a few ways you can use Catalyst to coach with impact. But first, a quick introduction. So, my name is Angel. I have an I style, and I've been working at Wiley for 3 years on the education team. And I've personally had many breakthroughs using Catalyst Insights, and I've also coached others successfully using all that Catalyst has to offer.
And my name is Lisa. I have an SI style, and I have been with Wiley in design and training roles for over 20 years. I love how Catalyst brings everything DISC into our workflow. I use Catalyst to gain insights about people that I'm about to meet with and engage with often. And I often coach with it to help people understand each other and positively influence their collaborations.
It's great to meet you all, and we're really excited. So, let's get started with our objectives for this session. So, facilitating workshops and coaching individuals require different skill sets, but Catalyst will make those conversations much easier. And in this session, we're going to show you how to coach individuals using personalized insights from Catalyst and coach managers and their teams using Catalyst group features. So, to get the most out of this session, we encourage you now to open your own Catalyst and follow along. So, as practitioners, it's really important for you to understand yourself, to understand your own tendencies before you coach others. And we find that each time we review our own catalyst feedback, we find insights that we've missed in times before. So, I'm just going to show you around Mateo's catalyst. And we are just going to look at a few places where you can use Catalyst for coaching individuals and really just practice starting with yourself. So when you come to your landing page, you will see your disc style and you can click on learn more about your style. And once you get to this page, you'll be introduced to your dot placement. You'll be introduced to the shading, which represents kind of your comfort zones on the map. And you really get this whole personalized narrative that describes your style. And finally, you'll always see here the handy cornerstone principles, which really help ground ourselves in this framework of DISC. You also have what drives you as a great place to start with yourself. So you are going to go to workplace, what drives you, and here you'll find your workplace priorities and you'll find your motivators, the things that really motivate you at work, and the stressors. And the nice thing is that after you overview the stressors, you will be provided with strategies. And that's just an example of that direct feedback, that direct insight that you'll get from Catalyst. And so finally, just so you know that it's here, if you ever want to overview the basic model, you can go down to discology, and it's going to give you a lot of options for how you can engage with that. I like even just going to the disc model here, and it grounds you in, the four different basic disc styles. And that's just a great place to start with yourself. So after today, we encourage you to regularly explore these areas for yourself. So what we're going to do now is we're going to apply Catalyst to 3 real life coaching situations and see how we can use Catalyst to help. So I'm going to turn it over to Lisa, and she is going to go over our first coaching scenario here with you all.
All right. Thanks, Angel. What I'd like you to do now is just consider that you just completed a fantastic large group training session with people from different parts of an organization. It was so successful that individuals are now approaching you for guidance on their situations. So I'd like to start over here with Isla. Isla has come to you after the session because she has a direct report that she thinks needs some coaching. Her name is Terry Wilson. She's having a hard time getting through to Terry and believes that Terry's behaviors is limiting her ability to work well with others. Now, if you're asked to coach, you don't have to go into any coaching session blind. Before agreeing to coach Terry, I can go into the Catalyst administrator experience and compare Isla and Terry's styles on my own first. What you'll do is up here in the upper right-hand corner, you'll have the admin view. You want to click on that and then take it to the learners list, and down here, select compare learners. Then you can come over here and tick off the two individuals that you want to compare. Now, if you are not a Catalyst administrator, that's okay. Connect with the organization's administrator who can then generate this for you. Now, you see by this comparison here that Isla has an ID style and Terry has a C style, and their style differences may certainly be at play here. So while Isla's intention is to help Terry fit in better with the team, the situation may first be benefited from growing Isla's awareness about Terry. So, as coaching practitioner, I would share the principle that great managers are the first to bridge gaps with their direct reports. And I invite Isla into a Catalyst coaching session. And of course, Isla agrees. So, coaching starts by asking questions. Here are some to consider in this case, and here are some of Isla's responses as well. So, what are you observing in Terry's behavior that causes concern for you? And Isla says, well, she frustrates others in the group when she's always questioning their new ideas. She resists committing to decisions while we're in meetings. And honestly, she just doesn't spend any time with the rest of the team. All right, that's good information. How are your intentions with Terry problematic? Isla reports that she likes to check in personally with her team, but Terry's very short with her and doesn't really share very much. Isla also likes to set aggressive deadlines to move projects quickly, but Terry wants to slow projects down to address little things that Isla doesn't think are necessary. All right, now we have a place to start. It's time to take Isla into Catalyst and do some coaching with her. So we're going to have Isla bring up her Catalyst account. And the first step that I would have her do is I would have her go to your colleagues. Now on her home page here, she can click right down here and get to your your colleagues, type in part of Terry's name and find her quickly and open up that comparison report there. So we would first start by reading through the description and the gray boxes at the top of the screen. And I would ask Isla to share what stands out to her. So as she's reading through this description, she indeed has seen accuracy and quality of work come from Terry, which she truly does appreciate. But it never dawned on her that Terry's questioning and challenging of assumptions and ideas might be coming from her accuracy preference. And not wanting to be rushed, which we have down here, actually explains maybe a little bit why she pushes back on aggressive timelines and holds back from making decisions quickly. All right, so there are some insights. Let's go ahead and scroll down to the map comparison here, and I'm going to ask Isla what she notices about these maps. Well, she sees that Terry prioritizes accuracy, challenge, and stability. Isla, on the other hand, prioritizes very different things: results, action, and enthusiasm. So we would talk about these differences and how they play out in their relationship and within the group. And I would also perhaps reiterate that first cornerstone principle about how all styles and their priorities are valuable. Isla is starting to appreciate the things that Terry prioritizes, but she also notices that Terry's preferences in these areas are what are holding up their projects, when Isla would prefer more action. All right, let's continue on. We're going to go down to your similarities and differences. This is the page that I showed in my screenshot earlier, but even further down, we get more detail about their comparisons, looking at behavioral tendencies. So what we want to do here is look for those with some of the biggest differences. So right away here at towards the top, Terry is very private, while Isla is very outgoing. That might explain Terry's resistance to socialize. Scroll down here a little further, we have the fact that Isla is fast-paced. Terry is steady paced. So again, showing their differences regarding project pace. As Isla learns more about Terry's C style, she's starting to see connections to the behavior she described earlier as concerning. Finally, we're going to scroll down to working together at the bottom of this page. And under working together, we see 4 different contexts in which interactions play out. So in each of these, you'll get some comparison information. You'll see how their relationship similarities benefits their relationship, and you'll see how their differences might create some roadblocks. And finally, there are tips down here that Isla can use to interact better with Terry. And you'll see this setup in all 4 of these relationship contexts. All right, so what I would do is have Isla read all these tips and provide that's provided in these tabs and consider which she could put into action with Terry. All right, so Isla has a lot of thoughts in her head now, lots of information. It's time to put these insights into action. So Isla has a much better understanding now of Terry's work style. Terry focuses on accuracy and quality. She also works at a more moderate pace, which allows her to explore important implications of new ideas. She challenges new ideas so she can analyze and catch any negative consequences or perhaps some flawed logic. And finally, she's private. She's reserved and independent, so not necessarily comfortable with socializing. With this understanding, Isla can now value what Terry prioritizes as much as her own priorities. She sees behaviors she can accept about Terry and actually rely on Terry for. But Isla also sees where she may need to support Terry to adhere to timelines and acceptable levels of quality in their progress, in their projects. So Isla's next step now is to reach out to Terry. So Isla will schedule a time for a one-on-one with Terry with the purpose of getting to know her work style better and using their Your Colleagues profile together. Encourage Isla to express her appreciation for Terry's strengths as they talk about priorities and tendencies, and to seek ways that she can be of support to Terry when processes and interactions are challenging. Then practitioners must always follow up with their coachees. So I would follow up with Isla afterwards to debrief this conversation she had with Terry and discuss next steps, like perhaps doing these meetings with the rest of her direct reports. So this situation demonstrates how you can help a manager and anyone really use Catalyst to grow in self-awareness and understanding of the other. Now, Angel's going to share another coaching opportunity to Angel.
Thank you, Lisa. So we're going to go to our second example here in coaching to breakthroughs with Catalyst. And this is about Matteo and Dave. So Matteo is hoping that you can help him because he's completely stuck on a project with his colleague, Dave. Dave is always really friendly and they get along for the most part, but they can't seem to be able to move forward at a nice pace with the project. A deadline is looming, and Matteo feels that Dave isn't focused. Mateo doesn't know how to approach these issues without hurting Dave's feelings or risking their relationship. So let's start by exploring what's happening when they're together in meetings. So you ask Mateo to understand his situation better. You ask him about the working relationship so far. And Mateo says that even though Dave is easy to work with and they get along great, too much time is spent chatting. Mateo says that he appreciates Dave's creative ideas, but he's frustrated when Dave resists weighing implications and processes. And Dave is always bringing new ideas. Mateo wants to slow down the brainstorming and take time to analyze the ideas they already have. So he enjoys interacting with Dave, but when the meetings end, he looks back at all the details that they didn't get a chance to sort out. And now we have a place to start. So we are going to go into Mateo's Catalyst, and we see that Mateo has an SC style. So we'll go into Your Colleagues, and we will click on Dave. So we can see that they're maps together. And immediately, one thing we'll notice is that they both have a shared priority for action. This is something they can have in common. So we're going to bank that and hold on to that information. Another thing we notice is that Dave's eye style is just a slight inclination. So he is likely to be able to stretch easily. And we could keep going in your colleagues like we did with Terry and Isla, but there's another place that we can use to coach Mateo too. Since Mateo wants to improve his working relationship, we can ask him to go to workplace, build better relationships. And we'll have Mateo go to connecting with the I style, since Dave is an I style. So after Mateo takes some time to read the section and suggestions, you can ask him one simple coaching question. What stood out to you? Under when you need to be more effective, Mateo tells you that people with the I style tend to place a higher priority on collaboration. And under when problems need to be solved, he tells you that I styles may be more comfortable deciding spontaneously, while an SC Mateo may need to weigh the options more. So, with your help, Mateo recognizes that Dave is likely placing more emphasis on being social because he needs to know Mateo in order to build trust. And Mateo appreciates the creativity and the innovation that Dave brings to old processes. And they both want to have their ideas respected and considered. So, appealing to this nature may help Mateo transition from chatting to working. So, let's go back to the PowerPoint here for a moment and just review what Mateo learned about Dave. So, after exploring your colleagues, he understands Dave a lot better and he hopes to leverage their shared priority for action to get things done. From connecting with I, Mateo has a few ideas how he can adapt to some of Dave's preferences and tendencies and how to get the work done in a way that engages Dave better. So he's going to plan a conversation with Dave. That's his next step. He wants Dave to come to understand him as he's taken the time to understand Dave. So he kind of asked the questions, what should we know about each other? How can I adjust to meet Dave's social needs and how to leverage the action priority? So he'll let Dave know that he just finished the disc training and he would like to do a colleague comparison with him to practice what he's learned. He's prepared to make some adaptations to his actions, but he wants to make sure that Dave will meet him halfway. So together they use the Your Colleagues page to help them have this conversation. And then the practitioners can schedule time to follow up with Mateo to debrief about the meeting and the next set of steps. So these first two situations, Terry and Isla and Dave and Mateo, focus on individual development. And our third and final coaching situation involves a manager who's considering his team's disc culture. And Lisa is going to guide us through this one.
All right. Thank you very much, Angel. All right. So after the workshop, again, another individual, Anton, reaches out to you to gain some insight about the team he manages. He's already made a group in Catalyst, and he sees that his team is pretty well balanced across the disc styles. He assumed that meant that they would all work pretty well together, but he's noticed some tension between certain team members. In particular, he wants to know how he can lead meetings better for more collaboration and productivity. So as before, this is where coaching practitioners will want to ask some questions to get a better picture. So what are the questions I might ask Anton? Well, what dynamics have you noticed in your team meetings? Are there voices that you think the team needs to hear more from? Others who may need to step back? What does a successful team meeting look like to you? And do you think that same definition of success applies for the others on the team? So through this conversation with these questions, Anton taps into some details about his observations of team behaviors and interactions. And this is what he shares. First of all, Stephanie, who has a D style, was recently promoted into the team. She has lots of ideas and lots of strong opinions. Lucas is a seasoned colleague, and they often butt heads in meetings. He thinks his ideas should be more respected. Stephanie often looks to Anton to back her up. Then we have Alyssa and Elena. They tend to hang together. They have similar styles, one SI and one IS. They're both willing to speak up in meetings as they bring some important insights, but they often get lost among the more outspoken colleagues, and they tend to stay quiet after a while. And Rahim, he doesn't say much in meetings either, and he keeps to himself a lot while he works. He's not comfortable with the tension that's in the room when others are starting to, as we said, butt heads. So with this information, it's time to take Anton into Catalyst. So let's go ahead and bring up Anton's Catalyst account here. Let's look at that group that he made. So we'll go over here in the left navigation to groups, and we'll see that he created a group called Leadership Team right here. And this is the map that he was talking about. Now, Anton mentions that he has only considered this disk style distribution on the map. So you can show him that this page provides so much more than in these tabs up here at the top. We have the group map. We also have style insights that gives him some insights about individual styles on the team. He also has group insights and conversation starters. And what I would like to direct him to first is that group site, the group insights here. And again, we have that tendency, these tendency continuums that you saw with Isla and Terry, but now we have the entire team plotted on the continuum. So we would start talking about the behaviors that he's concerned about and asking him what he notices as he looks through these continua. Well, he notices first that right up here at the top, strong-willed, he's got quite a few members who are strong-willed, especially Stephanie and Lucas. If he scrolls down a little further, I'll expand this, he gets to tactful and frank and finds out Stephanie and Lucas are very frank with each other here. And continuing down to near the bottom, we have skeptical and accepting. We see Frank and Stephanie, I'm sorry, Lucas and Stephanie in that high skeptical range. Now, if we look over to the other side, we see that Elena and Alyssa are on the other side at the accepting area. They tend to be opposite of the majority of the group. And Rahim is here closer to the center. So he can identify with Alyssa and Elena, but he's still feeling a little far away from the rest of the team here. All right, so Anton begins to realize that these tendencies are at play in their meetings, and he's not sure what to do about it. So where I would direct him now is up here to conversation starters. So we'll click into conversation starters, and he will see when it gets there. There we go. Conversation starters is a great place to go when teams need to or want to talk about their personality differences and how they play out on their team. And so conversation starters gives us conversations in 3 different areas that affect teams: getting to know your team members, making decisions together, and communicating clearly. Well, Anton decides that his team should focus on make decisions together, even though the other topics are relevant as well. So he'll start by exploring make decisions. And when he gets started, he'll see that the first thing it points to is one of those continua where people are quite separated. So we have part of a group way over here on the accommodating side and a part of the group on that strong-willed side. So he'll start by exploring this continua, and there are discussion prompts at the bottom here that he can consider. These are questions he can use when he brings the team together to get that conversation started. He doesn't have to start from scratch and create his own questioning. He can get started using these very relevant questions. Then he goes to the next page and he sees a second continua that can help explain any kinds of personality issues within making decisions. And again, he gets discussion questions here. Then I would point him to the final page here for him to review a number of strategies that the team could work toward to make their meetings more effective, especially their decision-making process. I would ask him to read through these and ask him, which of them can he really buy into? Which of them do you think you might want to start with? All right, so now we've got some information for Anton. Let's go back to our PowerPoint and talk about what he's going to do with that information. Groups and catalysts can help Anton engage his team to be more effective when they're working together. So he's noticed that in group insights, that helped him learn how different members behave and where they put their focus when they're in their meetings. And finally, conversation starters asked Anton to identify the strategies he could promote to the team for making decisions together. Now it's time for Anton to think about next steps. He'll set a meeting time to discuss how they'll engage in meetings using the Making Decisions conversation starter. And he can talk with you. You guys can decide if he would like to facilitate that conversation, or perhaps have you, as a practitioner coach, step in to facilitate so he can focus on participating. And then after this meeting, we want to make sure we follow up to be sure to find out what he's learned from this experience and help him with next steps, such as maybe having the team meet to go through the other two conversations. All right, so this completes our showcase of 3 different situations of coaching using Catalyst. I'm going to turn it back over to Angel now, who's going to take us home.
Thank you, Lisa. So let's just take a moment and look at all of the breakthrough key takeaways. So while Catalyst doesn't do the coaching for you, what it does do is equip you with insights about individuals explained in a familiar language. It does serve as an easy springboard for coaching dialogue, and it does provide ongoing access to actionable tips that can be put into practice right away. So I hope you can see how coaching with Catalyst can drive a positive organizational culture and make a really big impact on satisfaction and productivity. So, here are just some next steps that you can take based on what we explored today. So, the first is to remember to personally experience Catalyst insights and strategies for yourself. It's going to make a lot more sense when you go to use it with others that you've had that experience with yourself. The second is to practice coaching. Invite a colleague to a coaching session using Catalyst. And the third is to lead your own team through a your group conversation starter and just get some practice there and see how it goes.